Wow.
Oh yeah.
I didn't
What's up,
expect all
everybody?
that.
You got to make it grandiose, all that stuff. Night, you know what I'm talking about. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Lethal Collective show. I am the host today, Jake. We have the Nightwatch Zone as well. What's going on, man?
Yo, ready to
And,
rock.
and that's it. That is all. Everyone who is here. I didn't miss a single person. Anyways, what's up, Fate? Just kidding. Just messing with you, man. Welcome to the stream.
It's all right. I'm just the collector. I am the overseer, the decider.
The
of fate.
overseer. The overseer.
I am the
Wow.
grandiose.
The
I am the one.
I am the one. Neo, the one.
You are
The
the
one above
chosen
all.
one.
You were
You're supposed to bring balance to the force.
not join them.
I loved you like a brother. Yeah, that was such a great moment. Ewan McGregor killed it in that scene, man.
He did.
Oh yeah. Oh,
He did.
absolutely. Very good stuff.
I
very
have
good
the higher
stuff.
ground, Knight.
I have the high ground. But let's. We got Russell in the chat hanging out with us tonight. What's up, man? How's it going? Smash
up,
that
man?
like button already. We appreciate that. Thank you so much. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. We're going to talk some Scream. We're going to talk some horror news and all that. Is there anything that's burning your guys' seats right now because you want to talk about it so bad?
Burning.
One of the early reactions to The Exorcist are terrible.
I heard.
Yeah.
All the early reactions to The Exorcist are apparently like this shouldn't have been made. Like, I mean, some of them are like harsh, which is something we've talked about. The concern of like, hey, you don't need to. I don't know why they're doing this. What is it called? It's called Exorcist. What's
Believer.
Believer.
subtitle?
Yeah.
The Believer or whatever, which is a stupid name. Like,
Yeah.
I know.
mean,
Who came up with that?
They were like Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. That was successful, and those had cheesy subtitles.
Have you seen that guy? I wish I remembered his name off the top of my head. But he has like I think the videos come from TikTok or whatever. But like it's the guy that like he's like, woo, all right, I need a pitch, and he like does like the dread, like it's hilarious. It's the funniest thing ever because it's like he's like doing like the Hollywood pitch thing. And like every time he gets ready, he like pretends like he's snorting some substance, and then he's like, "All right, give me a famous wrestler," and they're like, Batista, and he's like, "All right,
Perfect.
give me he's like, give me something that cars can do to defy logic, fly into space, right?" And he's like, it's just all these like ridiculous like tropes that you see in Hollywood, and it's so comical because it's like it has to be true, like this stuff, like because that's what. My point is that like that's how I felt about when I saw like The Believer. Like some guy was like, "All right, we need to come up with a name for this."
Hey, look, you came up so quick. It looked so funny on your screen, man.
Hey, just like we need to come up with a name for this thing. Yeah, what should we call it? Like and some guy was like Exorcist, whatever, the dark ones or whatever. Jimmy, you're fired. Get out. You're an idiot. Next.
Too long.
Then,
We need one word.
One word. That's too long.
Man.
Like,
Wow.
Believer. That's it. Let's move it forward.
like, yeah.
Right.
Or he's like,
Right.
it wasn't. It probably wasn't even like the pitch. It was just like some guy's like, "Yeah, I'm a believer," and he's like, "Boom, got it. That's it.
Write it down. Write it down.
Good job, Jerry. Jerry,
Oh
this
my
is why you
God.
get the big bucks. I'm making $10 an hour.
Yeah, you're promoted.
Yeah, you're promoted to 12.
Oh my God.
Oh
well,
my God.
the complaints were that it wasn't scary and it was too long, too plotting or whatever.
Yeah, they said it was too drawn out, and there's supposed to be 2 more after this.
Yeah.
Man,
How do we feel about
even know
that?
what
A
this-
trilogy?
Well,
I don't think they
and
need
that's,
to make
and that's the
one.
thing too, man. It's like when they come into it saying, okay, we're gonna make a trilogy, and you haven't even gotten the first one out of the gate, it's kind of like, come on, man. You kind of putting the cart before the horse. You know what I'm saying? What's up,
Right.
Derek? Yeah.
What's up?
I mean, and I don't know, man. It's frustrating because and we've talked about it. It's like, first of all, doing an Exorcist movie isn't a great idea. Number one. number two to come out of the gate saying we're doing a trilogy. It's like, okay, all right. I mean, it's the type of movie that I think it's really difficult to make an Exorcist movie today. You know,
Oh
just with the
yeah.
with the with the
Yeah.
rhythm of the audience, what they expect in a movie, and all that type of stuff. So it doesn't surprise me that people were like, "Oh, well, it's not scary." You know, it doesn't surprise me at all.
And well, and like so one like I agree like with something like this because this film like it's one thing if they were starting their own like film or something like that. And it wasn't like The Exorcist. Like, okay, you want to get a
Mhm.
trilogy out? Okay, that makes sense. And
Right.
I'm sure that they're looking at the success of like Halloween, and they're like, oh, like this trilogy formula is the formula. But like like you said, putting the cart before the horse is a little ridiculous. And then on top of that, it's just like every year we have these new Exorcist films, like not
Mhm.
The Exorcist, but like you had the Pope's Exorcist, which I don't know if you
Mhm.
guys saw that, but like
Yeah.
all right, like it kind of was all over the place, didn't really make sense. But like you have all these movies every year, and you look at something like The Exorcist, and I talked about this before in a previous thing, and I think we were relating it to like Scream and other stuff, but like that the age of the slow build methodical type films isn't what it once was. Like the original Exorcist
Right.
was a long drawn out movie, right?
Yeah.
Like you could have cut that
Yeah.
film, you could have made that film in an hour if you wanted to, but like it was a
Mhm.
different time, and it like had this build. You can't do that today. Like people want
Mhm.
fast pace. That's why you see movies like Scream. Like Scream 2 today, like if they released that type of film today, probably wouldn't be as well received. It was
Right.
received great back then because it was like movies were slower than now. You look at like Scream
Right.
6 and it was like boom, boom. Like in the first 5 minutes of every movie, something crazy happens, and then it sets up the rest, and then you have little spots, and then boom, something crazy, and then little spots, and then boom, something crazy. Where like The Exorcist, it looks like they're trying to make this more traditional based on
Mhm.
like what the sounds are. And if you're gonna do that, like I just don't think that formula is gonna work today.
Right.
Like I
Right.
just don't think
Well,
you can have a 2.5 hour movie of just like 2 hours of slow build, and then the 2 hour, and then the 30 minutes at the end is like where everything goes crazy, and then it cuts, and
mhm.
it's like, well, get ready for part two, and it's like,
Right.
all right, like, I just
Well,
wasted 2 hours of my life.
Well, the interesting thing about The Exorcist as well is that, I mean, yes, it's a horror film, and that's what it was labeled as when it came out. But the thing of it was the whole landscape of movies was so different back then. Is that when it was rolled out, it had that documentary type of feel, that gritty type of feel, and it could take its time because the landscape was still very what's the word I want to say? It wasn't crowded. You know what I mean? And this was
Yeah,
something that people had never seen before, anyways. So the fact that the story really unfolded over 40% of the beginning of the movie, setting up, the characters and Father Karras and Marin and da, 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 and then you kind of get into Reagan's story. You could do that back in what was it, 72 or
and it
whatever.
was based on a true story,
Right.
which nowadays everything is lightly based on a
Right.
true story. Where back then that wasn't
Right.
something that was like the only true story things were documentaries, right? Like if it
Exactly.
wasn't a documentary, there was no really based on a true story. And yeah,
Yep.
but sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, 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 no. I was pretty much finished, but you're right. And everything about it was just fresh. And so now here you are 50 years later, and that movie spawned so many copycats. It spawned so many things that were inspired by it. So how do you go back into that franchise? It's a lot different than making a film today versus, back in 96. Now, true, like you said, you got to pick up the pace a little bit, but you're still within a lane where you can like do certain things. With The Exorcist, there's like I said, man, when we first heard about it, it's like I just don't know how they can pull it off. Really don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just to throw in my 2 cents, I kind of agree. Like I love the original and I love the slow burn aspect to it. We don't get a whole lot of movies like that nowadays. And if we do,
Mhm.
people don't see them, which I think is really unfortunate. Because it's a great movie. The original Exorcist is one of my favorite horror films of all time. I think it's so well done how it just slowly turns this super sweet little girl into the most evil demonic entity you've ever seen on screen. It's so well done, and that's why sometimes you gotta bear with the movie for a little while. Sometimes it's setting up a lot so that it can be more effective in the ending, and people just don't have the patience for that anymore, which I think is really a shame. We've been watching TikTok and all that, and it's kind of I hate to sound like an old timer
Change
here,
their
but
perspective.
but
No,
see,
you're
that's the
right.
crazy thing about it is that you're not an old timer, you know. So
You're not.
it's cool that you have that type of mindset.
I just like
But
I don't know. I'm
that's
not a
the
big
world we
fan
live
of.
in.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
the world we live in. People are obsessed with it.
It is.
I can't get into TikTok. It's 60 seconds of someone doing something ridiculous or dancing, and
right.
that's it. Like there's nothing to be passionate about. There's nothing like like I could do anything you see on TikTok, like anyone in this room could pretty much do. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
90% of it. There's the
Right.
10% that's like really excellent and well done if it's like a comedy sketch or someone playing like something like doing something really impressive like playing on the violin or music, drums, whatever.
Right.
Like that's the shit I follow and I love that. But then you
Right.
just have people dance and they get hundreds of millions of followers. And I don't know, it's just a little frustrating to me when there is great stuff out there and nobody, and then it only makes like $1 million at the box office. Like, I think Beau
Mhm.
is Afraid on a technical level is such a well made film and made for $35 million, and it's only brought back 9 of that. And that
Mm.
sucks because I think like I would wish more movies like that could happen, more artists being able to put out a 3-hour long movie that's actually really well done. But nobody has the patience for that anymore. And I think it's a shame.
Well, can I just a quick question too to kind of go off of this whole thing with The Exorcist and both you guys are I totally agree, but here's my question is like where do you think this is going to go as far as, you know, things have to be faster and faster and faster and boom boom boom, and if you don't do those types of things, you know, a lot of the audience and maybe it's more the younger generation too. They just lose track of what's going on. Do you think that there'll be a time when movies, and I'm talking specifically movies, that is, when movies will kind of turn back around or what? I mean, because you're right, the attention span is
I think
so
I think
short.
we're gonna reach a point. I think we're gonna reach a point in the next, maybe even the next 5 years, where
Mhm.
outside of the big box office films, no films are in theaters. Everything will be streaming. So like all like outside of like the Transformers, the Marvel films, like the big, huge, spectacular, multi-$100 million films. I think we're gonna get to the point where those are the only films in theater because they
Mm,
like these all these other films don't have the success. Like they're
mm,
not having the success of the scale. And now because of streaming and everything else. So it was Matt Damon. And I really recommend everyone go listen to this like speech that he was talking. It wasn't a speech, it was an interview, but he was talking about it. He said that it's changed. So he said 10 years ago, I'm paraphrasing, but basically 10 years ago, like you could make like these movies, these long drawn out movies and things like that, like he was talking about like Goodwill Hunting, stuff like that you could make, and studios would give you an opportunity to make those films and put the budget into it, because even if the movie didn't do great in theaters, you had
mhm.
basically a second round of more money and DVD sales and stuff like that. But he said
Right.
now, because of streaming and all these platforms, DVD sales are basically non-existent. And he said the
Mhm.
problem is movies don't make money in the theaters. Like people think and see like, oh, this movie made $1 billion, but after cost, after everything, the movie might have profited a couple $1 million, if that. Like you see, like a great example is Fast and Furious X, the new Fast and Furious movie, right?
Yeah,
That's coming
Fast
out.
X.
They're saying that it has to make like 400 million just to break even on like just the budget for the film. That's not costing the theater costs.
Jesus
This film,
Christ.
Fast and
Crazy.
Furious X, is gonna have to make like $2 billion just to make a small profit. Most
Mm,
of the Marvel movies the last 10 years haven't made any money, right? Because like Matt Damon was explaining it, you didn't make your money at the theaters. You made your money on merchandise sales. You made your money on DVD sales. You made your money on all the other stuff. The theater was just the marketing ploy. Get
mm,
everyone in there, know about your product, they understand your product, and then you make the money elsewhere. So the
mhm.
problem is like, what's the movie you were just talking about, Jake?
Fast
Beau
X.
is
Oh,
Afraid.
Bo is Afraid.
Yeah, Beau is Afraid, like that. Like they're not going to be able to make those type of movies for theaters anymore. Like that's why, like Matt Damon was even saying in the interview, like that's why you don't see these risk-taking movies anymore, because studios don't want to do it because it's not going to make any money. They know that they're going to lose money. Every once in a while, a studio might do that because it's a tax write-off, right? They lost $34 million. They can write that off if their next movie makes, you know, 20 million in profit, right? So he said sometimes you'll find things here, like you'll see things here and there that just get made, just they know it's going to flop, but they'll make it just to make it. Just like you know, businesses. Like you ever go into a store and you're like, how is this store still open? Like you're always the only person. It's because all their other stores are doing great and they want to leave that open because it's a tax write-off building, right? It's the one store that they can write off. So I think we're getting to a shift where all these studios are going to say there's no point in us making this movie that's only going to 100 grand when we could just do these big blockbusters and then sell it to a Netflix, sell it to an Amazon, sell it to whomever, and we'll make $1 million in profits in the sale rather than hoping that everything, it's just safer money. So I just think we're going to get a point where you're not going to go to the theater to watch, you know, a Man Named Otto or whatever.
That just sucks. Like, I don't want to live in that world, you know? Like, my favorite movies from this year have been things like Beau is Afraid, Infinity Pool, and those movies, I mean, they're not, like, killing it at the box office, you know? Yeah. But, I mean, like, that's why I mean, honest to God, that's why I get up in the morning, is because we get new movies like that all the time that are these original, weird things. And, you know, a lot of people talk about how, like, originality is dead. You know, Hollywood's not pumping out any more good ideas. And to a degree, you're right, but also there are still original horror movies that come out all the time, and I almost feel like just saying that is kind of degrading them. There's the problem is nobody's going to see them anymore. Like nobody wants to take a chance on originality anymore. They just want something that's familiar. Like, I mean, Scream 6, I love it, but it's very familiar. It's a very familiar movie. It's comfortable for that reason. You gotta today's audience, I would argue it's not Hollywood that's the problem. They're just going off of what people want to go see. You know what I mean? We need people need to go and see original films like that are coming from these weirder studios and just take a chance. Like take a chance on a movie that looks decent to you. If you want to go see it, go check it out. Like see it in the theaters. People don't want to do that anymore, and I think that's really a shame.
But I agree with you 100% because of streaming though. Like if there's a movie like say Infinity Pool, right? Because that's on streaming now, right?
Yeah.
Like you'll see a lot of movies that'll do terrible in theaters, but they'll do great in streaming. Because if there's a movie that I'm curious in, like, you know, like we'll just use Infinity Pool because you said it. Like if I'm curious in going and I want to see Infinity Pool, but I'm not sure if it's going to be a good movie or if it's going to be worth the ticket price, why not just wait a month and it'll be on streaming and then I can just watch it on streaming and it doesn't cost me anything. And
that's been the line of thinking though. Like that's right there.
And that's what it is. And that's
but that's streaming. The problem. Like we can't change that just because there is that easier option. We can save money that way. You know what I mean? If you want to see original movies in the theater, go see the original movies. And if you hate them, that sucks. But at least like $10 towards Infinity Pool is more valuable than $10 towards Scream 6, in my opinion. Which is like, I know that's a hot take. Right. I love the Scream franchise, but at one point, that movie Scream in 1996 was an Infinity Pool. It was this is just a weird slasher film that's coming out, and it turned into this big hit. So like, what if we did that with more movies? You know what I mean? We're all like there's plenty of people who are complaining that Scream 6 is repetitive and derivative for different reasons. I may disagree with those, but if you feel that way, then go see these other movies. Like Infinity Pool was a fucking 10 out of 10 in my opinion. Go throw $10 towards that movie and you'll see more movies like that.
Well, the other thing about it too is that I think that a lot of folks, you know, the mentality is I don't want to say lazy, but you know, you feel comfortable because you're like, well, if I could just watch it at home, you know, and take a chance on it at home, that's much better than going to the theater, which to me, that's a big issue too, because, and I'm just speaking for myself, but I'm sure you guys probably agree. I love going to the theater. You know, the theater is still like, it's an experience that I still enjoy. And even if the movie isn't like a 10 out of 10 for me, you know, a lot of times, especially if I'm with someone, it's an experience beyond the movie itself, you know, and I think that's been lost a bit because of things like streaming. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great things about streaming and a lot of great things about having movies at your fingertips and all of that type of stuff. But I think for a lot of people, streaming has become that replacement for the theater experience.
It
Not for
is, yeah.
me, not for me, but for a lot of people it has. And for some people I can understand, for some people, they don't live near a theater, or maybe they're not able to always physically go to a theater, or maybe they've got a very busy life, or maybe they got like 10 kids, all these different types of things, and you can understand that. But like I said, I think streaming has become a big replacement, and we know that because of the numbers that are happening with the box office and so forth for so many movies. And it is kind of sad. It's really kind of sad to see. It really is.
Well, it's also like, like, so say like, Mario. Well, that might be a bad example because it did so well. But like, for example,
Mhm.
that movie, like you got people like like myself, right, that have 5 kids. Like for me to take me and all my kids to the theater, it's like $200, right?
Mhm.
Because it's like $100 of tickets, and you gotta buy popcorn, all that stuff, And so not everybody can afford that.
Right.
Not everybody can afford to take their kid there, but you can wait for it to go on streaming, and then you and the whole family, you can, throw some popcorn in the microwave, get all your kids your snacks, cost you $20, and you and the whole family can be in the comfort of your living room,
Right.
and watch the same film, and all you got to do is just wait a month. Like streaming's changed, it's changed everything from a movie perspective, and I just think it's only going to get worse. I think
Mhm.
I just don't see. I think in the next, I mean, it might even be sooner, but I think in the next like 5 years, I think very likely the only movies you're going to get are the Transformers, the Fast and the Furious, the Marvel movies, like those things. I just think the little.
Man, I
I
just
do. I
hope
think
not.
like
I
I
just
mean,
really hope not.
I hope not too,
Jake
but
is
it's
like,
just, I mean, it
boo.
already is. It already is heading in that direction. I mean, and it's
No,
already heading in that.
dude.
I mean, even
Look at
big
just this
movies.
year. Look at just this year. There's
Yeah,
only like 6 movies coming out that are like original IPs out of all the big
yeah,
blockbusters or something like that. It's
exactly.
Mm.
ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
crazy shit. That might be a
Well,
bit of an
and even
exaggeration,
some
but
of the big
still.
ones are going straight to like Halloween, right? Like they released it on streaming the same time, and like they probably lost themselves $100 million. But you know what? Peacock or whatever probably paid them $10 million to have that get there. It's guaranteed money. Like that's profit. I don't have like, why would I risk? Yeah, it might make $100 million, but it might not. Like, and then I have to pay the theaters, and I have to do like, I'm telling you, like movies don't make as much as people think. Like you see
Mm.
the box office, and it's like, oh yeah, it made, man, a $35 million budget, and made 180 million. They're rolling. That's 150 million. Well, half of that immediately goes to the theaters. So now you're talking 75 million, and then they probably spend another 50 million in marketing the film. So now you're
Mm.
down to 25 million, and then you got to pay whatever incurring costs here and there, and then you got to pay for the manufacturing of the merchandise, all that stuff. Like they're probably in the whole $10 million by the time everything's done.
Yeah. I like
So,
one last thing, and we do got to get Denisha's super chat
yeah.
here, but just
Well,
another
this
thing I
ties into that.
yeah, oh yeah, okay, yeah, it does. Just one more thing I wanted to add to that was just like I think that there's always going to be a market for original films. There are a lot of people that
Yeah.
love the continuations and all that, and I think a lot of them
Mhm.
are good. Some of them are bad, some of them are good. But I think there's always going to be a market for original film just in general. If it's horror, if it's drama, whatever, you're
Right.
always going to have that market. Some way it's going to get out to the public. It's some way, one way or the other. Like I think that Babylon and Triangle of Sadness, Infinity Pool, Beau is Afraid, like these are movies that have just come out in the past like 6-7 months or so that I think are terrific and nobody talks about them. Like these are amazing
Mm.
movies that are so well done and so good, but everyone's hyped about Fast X this week. You know what I mean?
Right.
And who knows how
Right.
good that's gonna be? I don't
I
know,
know,
man.
man.
So take a chance on original movies, whatever that is. If it's horror, if it's drama, if it's comedy, whatever, just go just do that. You know what I mean? It's really going to help out
Right.
the wave of movies we get in the future, no matter if you like this one or not, I guess is the big point. But Knight,
Mhm.
we're gonna throw this super chat at you because I don't know anything about this. Cobra Kai, apparently a writer has walked out, according to Denisha here. Thank you for the $2, by the way. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Denisha. Thank you.
Thank you.
I thought I heard something about that too, and Fate was right, because what we've been kind of talking about, it kind of all goes into the same thing, with the writer's strike and all this type of stuff. Um, and I know Denisha loves Cobra Kai. I love Cobra Kai too. I'm still catching up, but it's like it doesn't surprise me with all the stuff that's going on. I hope that things can be resolved. Will they? Eesh. I don't know, man. I'm not holding my breath on a lot of things because not only Cobra Kai, but we've heard that Stranger Things has been delayed. Blade from Marvel itself has been delayed.
Yeah,
So it's like,
most shows, series,
yes.
movies.
So there's a lot of things, whether it's movies or streaming shows, that have been affected by all these types of things. So I don't know what's gonna happen. I hope for the best because this is supposed to be the last season. Just like Stranger Things too, which is kind of interesting. But that really sucks too, man. It's like, oh man, it's the last season for these things. And it's like you don't want them. I was just talking about this the other day on a live stream. You don't want them to be hindered in any way, shape, or form. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like
right, dude.
the Duffer brothers were talking about like for Stranger Things, writing doesn't stop when production starts. Writing
Yeah,
is a process that continues sometimes throughout the whole production process. So it's like, oh man, it's rough. It's really rough.
I I can't really speak on Cobra Kai because I've never actually seen the show. But the
Hmm.
writers' strike in general, from my understanding, is that it boils down to two major things. One is AI. They want they want uh, they want studios to leave AI out of the writing room because it's going to replace all the writers. And Disney has even said, I don't remember who it was exactly, but Disney's even said that they've used AI to write some of these scripts, but it's still a couple years away from being able to write a whole film. In
Yeah,
the
and
next like
Hmm.
three to
it's just ridiculous, man. Sorry, give me
yeah,
1 second, everybody.
yeah. In the next basically in the next 3 to 5 years, writers will be irrelevant because of AI. And that's what they're worried
Mm.
about. They want to keep it out of the room.
Right.
Problem is that like how long does that last? Like it
Right.
sucks, but that's the unfortunate of reality is that
Right.
if you're a studio, it's a business,
Mm.
and the way that they're going to look at it is like I could pay 15 writers $3 million to write this film, or I can generate an AI for like 50 grand and do the exact same things. And
Mm.
now, and it sucks because people are out of
But
jobs. It does suck, but that's the reality we're in.
this YouTuber I watched named Drew Gooden did a really good video on precisely that, like
Yeah,
just
I saw his
talking
video
about
yesterday.
like, oh, okay, yeah. So you know
Yeah,
what I'm talking about. He talked a little bit about how he's like
yeah,
the big
I
draw
saw
to
it yesterday.
movies. Like an AI algorithm writing movies completely defeats the point of movies. Like why we're drawn to films and stories and all that is because it's a human
Doesn't
experience
have
being kind of
Right.
yeah
recreated in a fictional
translated.
story, and it's like it's so interesting. You go to the theater to be moved and to feel emotions, but you don't get that with an AI generated script. Like that's insanity.
Hmm.
Like it's an oxymoron. It makes no fucking sense. So the fact that it's even being considered as an option is insanity to me. Obviously, I am in total support
Right.
of this strike. I feel like I speak for all of us when I say that. So hopefully
Hmm.
the writers get higher pay and don't get fucking replaced by something that could never be capable of writing a human story. Like it's insanity. It's completely insanity to me.
Well,
Yeah,
well, well. The other thing of it too is it's just like with CGI and being able to, or deep fake and all this different type of stuff. It's like the question is how far, and we're talking specifically about movies, so studios and all that type of stuff, but how far, will they go? Even though, like you said, Faye, even though they have the ability to utilize this technology and it saves them money, but you take humans out of the equation, just like with CGI and all that type of stuff. They talk about using actors likenesses after they've passed away and stuff like that. And it's like, how far do we want to go? You know what I mean? Even though technology
yeah, but
allows us
that's
to
the
do
problem.
these things.
That's the
Yeah.
problem though, is that they'll go because again, it's a business, right? Again, it
Mm.
it sucks. I support the writers. I hope that they win.
Yeah,
I
me
just think
too.
this is a losing battle. I think
Mm.
eventually it's going to come to a head. Because I mean, look, like McDonald's, for example, has self-automated restaurants now, where like there's just one guy working that's just there just to make sure everything's running smoothly. Like we're
Mm.
moving into an era where AI is going to replace most jobs. Technology in general is going to replace most jobs, and companies are going to use that stuff because it's cheaper. Again, like that automated McDonald's for like, 100 grand one time, and then like, a couple grand a month in maintenance, you can have a fully efficient operated restaurant and still make the same amount of money, but now your profits are higher. So if it was making $1 million now, well, now you're making $3 million because I don't have to pay 15 people $1 million a year total to, do that. Like, and that's the problem. And when it comes to the writers and stuff, AI is only going to improve and only going to get better. And right now, AI is just plagiarism essentially. All AI is doing is just like you give it prompts and it's taking things from all these different sources, putting it together. But you're starting to see the beginning stages of AI being able to generate independent stuff. And like studios will be able to just give it a prompt of like, hey, we're making a new Thor movie. Thor is going to go to this planet. Here's the name of the planet, blah, 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 blah. And you're going to give it all these prompts. And what it's going to do is it's going to be able to write a script. It's going to be able to use the source material from all the Thor movies and all the comics and everything like that. And it's going to be able to give you the best depiction of Thor. And it's going to be able to write the jokes. It's going to be able to do all that stuff. It's just, I just feel like it's,
I disagree. I think that I think that you could get to the point where AI is generating stories and something like exactly what you're talking about. And fuck, that might have already happened with how Thor Love and Thunder was. But that's exactly it though. I would listen, there's no proof of this. There's no way you can look this up or whatever. But after watching that movie, you can't convince me that wasn't written by AI. You cannot convince me that film was not written by an AI, and Taika Waititi and whoever the other writer was did a little.
Some of it might have been.
I don't know. To me, I'm just like, I feel like we've already gotten to that point. We've already seen movies like this. I think Jurassic World Dominion was another one written by AI and all that. And you can just tell from the writing, the jokes, that there's outdated jokes in both films. The goats screaming in Thor Love and Thunder. That was a joke on the internet like 12 years ago or some shit. Like goats screaming. Because that's haha so funny. And they recycled that in that movie. It's all like, it's none of that movie felt like human connection. It's just like what a robot thinks that people are like, you know what I mean? And I don't think AI could ever get to that point. I feel like you're always going to be able to tell the difference between a story that's written by a real person and accounting for real events that they're maybe writing is based off of versus something that an outside perspective of what a human being is going to be. You're never going to get to that point. At least I think. And you're always going to be able to tell the difference between something that has a human touch to it versus what doesn't.
I don't know, because I mean, look, there's AI songs that have came out that have topped the Billboard charts. There was that one with like Drake and like a bunch of other people that for a whole month everyone thought was a real song until they all came out and was like no, and it like was #1 on the Billboard chart. I mean, AI is only going to get better, and right now it can deceive people. Like it can already, like people can't tell the difference, and it's only going to get better over the years. And look, I hope they come to a happy medium. The other thing is too with this writer strike is streaming services, because like their big problem with streaming services. So like when you write a film or when you write a show, right? Like think Friends, The Office, stuff like that. All of that stuff is still in syndication, right? I mean, you can go on some channels and it's just like Office 24/7, right? Well, all the writers of that show all still get residual checks. They all still get paid. But when it comes to streaming, you don't. It's just a flat rate one time. It's a flat rate one time and that's it. And like streaming services are like, well, we can't, like there's no metric to make that, like we're paying you one time because it's not a show where it's just forever on the platform. So either A, streaming services will start having that be on like a show or a film that they have, eventually it'll just go away. They'll end up just like, how do companies stop having to pay residuals to these writers? Like, okay, we'll just have it in syndication for a year and then we'll just take it off the platform just like everything else. And then you guys won't ever get paid again. Again, it sucks. It does. It sucks. But I think it's a losing battle. I really do. I just don't see. I mean, maybe they can put a bandage over it for now.
Let's get to Brandon's super chat. But I think there's plenty of people out there that like will hear that and be like, yeah, I don't want to live in that world. I don't want to do that. And I think businesses are going to start like there are already plenty of production companies that realize that that's what's going on. They're just not the big ones. Like the big ones are the ones that are utilizing all this bullshit. And it's going to if it gets to that point, I guess is my point, people won't see those movies. Like enough people will wake up to it and realize like what the fuck is going on.
I don't think so though. I mean, we've seen
there's
going
to be people who I mean, you're right though. There's going to be enough people who are going to like just see whatever. You know, if it's got Marvel on it, people are going to see it. There are plenty of people like that for sure.
Think of like celebrities and stuff that have done atrocious things. Like if people love something, they don't care. Like like that's the thing. Like people will say that they do. The people will say, but the majority, like like,
I don't know. I guess I have a little more faith that people will realize what art is.
I think it depends too, because
where it's ever worked. Here's where people have just completely disowned something and just it hasn't happened. Like think of like Chris Brown. He had like a month where people hated him, and then all of a sudden he released a new album, and everyone was like, "Oh, he's the greatest artist ever." And I like.
I mean, what about like Kevin Spacey? What about?
Well, I was just about to say there's been times
he just did a new movie and stuff. Like people again, time.
But
passes.
do you think the majority of people on planet Earth right now are like losing their minds over Kevin Spacey? I don't think.
Yeah, he's definitely not what he was, and I think there's been examples of when people they turn on certain things if it's not delivering on the promise of what it for instance but I mean look at Marvel movies. I mean like they're still doing whatever and they're still rolling, but they're not what they were, you know what I mean? They're not at that same level. Not at the same level though, and not at the same level.
I mean, every Marvel movie is still making almost $1 billion. The majority
but think about this is a great point though.
Think about this.
Sorry.
If you look at Thor, Love and Thunder, if you look at Wakanda Forever, if you look at Ant-Man Quantumania, if you look at Black Adam, if you look at Shazam, all 5 of those superhero movies did not perform the way that they were supposed to. There's definitely a downgrade because people are and part of this too is just superhero fatigue, but it's also because people are realizing that things are so like diluted that they're getting, and plus, you get 1,000 shows on streaming that are coming out every week. You can't keep up with it. Myself, as a person that likes superhero movies, I haven't seen like 70% of the last several, and that's part of what a lot of people are doing. And I think it's going to get to a point, just like with trends in general, that they're going to start to fade out. There's still going to be superhero movies, there's still going to be Marvel movies, I'm sure, but it's not going to be at the level like they were back when you had, like the Avengers movies, big things like that. So I guess what I'm saying is that the hope, and I don't know if it will, but the hope is that if we get to that point, like you're talking about fate, that people will start to kind of say, you know what, this is bullshit. And we know it because we know that these aren't actual people that are involved with whether it's the scripts or the products or whatever. That's the hope. Will it happen? I don't know, but I'd like to think if people can be, like you guys said it yourself, Kevin Spacey or oh my God, who else? I mean, there's been a lot of people.
There's like plenty of examples. I
just don't see. I mean, look, everything becomes sooner or later. Everything becomes gospel, so to speak, right? So like we've seen like people said like think of, like back in the day, seatbelts. I'm not wearing a seatbelt. No one's ever now everyone just, you get in the car, you put on a seatbelt, right? Like cell phones. Like I'm not carrying this big cell phone. Like there are throughout time, eventually technology and things in the world make that shift, make that change. Everyone says, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to support it. I'm not going to do it. And then it just becomes the norm and everyone just buys into it. Like even with the Marvel things, like, yes, they didn't perform that the way that they should have, but they still had success. They still made money based on their budget, and the majority still went and saw it. And that's my point, is the majority. Like, yes, let's say 100 people go and support something in this AI stuff. Maybe 10 of those 100 say, I'm not doing this anymore because I support the writers. Eventually, those 10 are going to see something that they are like, oh man, I really want to see that. Like, and eventually that becomes, okay, well, let me go see this one. And that's it. And then it's like, ooh, I want to see that. Okay, I'm just going to do these two. And then eventually that whole thing. I mean, it's with every movement we've ever seen.
look at Guardians of the Galaxy 3 though, which like a terrific movie in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think it kicks ass. It's maybe the last good Marvel movie, but I had a blast with it. It had like it really made me feel something, especially with Rocket's backstory. I thought that was phenomenal, and it's outperforming like every Marvel movie from the past like 2 years or some bullshit like that.
Right.
And it's like it's going like it's skyrocketing up there. To me like that is the proof in the pudding that people are looking for these movies, are looking for good superhero films still. It's like there is superhero fatigue for sure, but it's because we haven't gotten too many good ones since Endgame came out. Like,
Right.
from both sides, if it's DC, if it's Marvel, there's just hasn't been any super good, hasn't been anything fantastic as a superhero IP. There are little things here and there, which hilariously, I think both of the movies that I can think of are James Gunn related projects. But I don't know. I really think there's enough people who can recognize when, like, a lot of the money that I think was generated from movies like Ant-Man, what were we just talking about? Thor: Love and Thunder, Black Adam. A lot of the people who saw these movies are. But that's my point. A lot of the people who saw these movies went to see them because they knew they were going to be a shit show. I think that's like a big part of it too.
But here's the thing. So like those movies released, you had the vast majority of people go because that's when movies usually make their money, is the first like weekend. So you had the vast majority of these people go see the movie, and the movies were terrible. So now you lost all of those people going to rewatch the movie. You got all those people telling their friends that movie was trash, don't see it, wait till streaming or whatever, and it fell. But now you look at something like Guardians of the Galaxy. That film got the large majority that went in. Everyone was like, wow, that was a really good movie. So they told their friends, you gotta go see it. It's word of mouth. And my point is that like AI eventually is going to be able to write a good script. People only care about the product. They don't care what went in. Like people aren't going, like how many times do you hear people that are like, oh, my favorite PA in Marvel is whatever, Henry Michaels or whatever, right? You never hear anybody because nobody cares. Like it sucks. It sucks to say, but nobody cares, right? Like, so the writers, nobody's like, oh, like everyone has like their favorite, right? Like, oh, Guy, like he made, like, he's a great writer, blah, blah, blah. But what about the 15 other writers that were a part of that? You know what companies could do? They could just have, hey, Guy, you and this AI are going to write this film and nobody's going to care. And as long as it's a good product, everyone's going to go flock to see it. That's what I mean by like history has always shown if people like something, they don't care. They don't care if you're a piece of shit. They don't care if you're eating babies. They don't care. They say they do, but they don't.
I just think there is a market for original movies, and there always will be. Like I really think that's always going to be a thing. And right now we're going through a growing pain because we have this technology that makes things easier. So as human beings, of course, we're going to play around with it. It's automation. We're constantly looking to do things, big things, faster, but make them quicker, easier, faster. Exactly. Yeah. We're constantly looking for that as human beings. And I think at some points we realize that sacrifice to do things better and faster and easier, it's less work. We realize that sometimes the path less taken, the path less traveled, which is more work, is sometimes the better path. And actually, most times I would say it is.
Last point. I have a great example. CGI. So CGI replaced an entire industry in practical effects. Some films still use practical effects, but majority don't, or they'll do like little spots here and there, and then they do. So when CGI first came out, there was outrage, there was strikes, there was all this stuff. You're trying to destroy an industry. You're trying to ruin this. That'll never be adaptable. And in the beginning, you could clearly tell the difference between CGI and practical. I mean, it was terrible. I mean, some movies had some of the terror. Now you look at CGI and the technology advanced, you can't even tell the difference. It's so good. It's so perfected. It's so well done. And the problem is that you had the same outrage that you have now with AI. And eventually it became the norm. It became accepted. Nobody cares. People prefer CGI over practical effects outside of like maybe horror movies. But most in general, like it's just.
But look what's happened with this is a great example. Look what else has happened with that though. Like typically when like let's look at the new Scream films for instance. Like
Yeah.
they used practical effects but with a little CGI cleanup. Like listen,
Mhm.
to me worst case scenario with the AI is like we are going to fight. We're going to protest this shit for the longest time. Maybe it helps here's like what I envision happening. I envision writers will use AI at some point down the line when it does, and this is blasphemous right now. I shouldn't even be saying this probably. I imagine down the line, you'll have people, writers in general, who will use Chat GPT and all this bullshit to help them write something, but they're going to initially like just cut most of that. Like that's gonna happen. Like that is going to happen. Just the same thing as we do with CGI. We use practical effects as a building point, but then maybe we use these other things to fill in blanks or just
Mhm.
smooth things out to make
Clean
it
it
look
up a
better.
little bit.
Wes's death in Scream 5 is a perfect instance of that. Like it is
Yeah.
practical, but they cleaned it up with CGI just to make it look a little
Yeah.
better. I feel like
But
that
that's
is
my-
probably
but
the
that's my
future.
point.
But we're still
that's
going
my-
to have that. We're still going to have practical effects. We're still going to have originality in screenwriting and all that. But maybe that's a little bit of that is tossed in there. But hopefully there will still be films like Infinity Pool, like plenty of other movies that have come out recently. Birds of
Terrifier.
Prey, Terrifier 2, Triangle of Sadness, Babylon, that still try to strive for originality. We'll still have that, I think. This will be a factor. I totally agree with you. Like there's no deny, like AI is not going away by any
Right.
means anytime soon, but I just know in my little not super cynical heart that that we will always want that we will always have this strive for originality. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just me
No.
talking.
Last thing, and then we got to get to Brandon.
I know we got to get to some super chats. Sorry,
We
everybody.
gotta be going on. No, but that's my point. Is that like what I think? And look, like I said, hopefully they find a happy medium. And some people might be watching this and going like, oh, like it's the reality. Like again, I want the right. I don't want people to lose their jobs. I just want to make that clear because I'm sure some people are going to be looking at this and go, you're arguing for the the studios. No, I'm just arguing for what reality is. What reality is, this is a business and they're going to do whatever it takes to make the most money. And what I think is going to end up happening is, again, you're going to have a writer, the top writers, Kevin Williamson. We'll stick with Kevin Williamson, right? Well, now instead of Kevin Williamson and a whole writing team and a whole writing department, Kevin Williamson and an AI will write the whole script and it'll be more efficient, more effective, faster. They'll be able to pump these out because Kevin Williamson can just have his idea and then use AI to kind of bounce things, fill in spots, like when you're in the writing process, you get to a point and you're like, God, like how do I continue this point? Well, AI, you can just put all the way up to that point and then AI will continue that and go, nah, I don't like that. Next one. Nah, I don't like that. Next one. Nah, I don't like that. Next one. And it's doing it. I mean, you could get 1,000 prompts or 1,000 different possibilities for what that is in a matter of like 20 minutes, where it would take a whole writing team weeks or months. And now you go through and say the 100th one, you're like, that's it. That's the one. And that's what I think is I don't think it's going to screw the big names in writing, because even with AI, you're going to need somebody that has the creative mind to prompt that AI, right? Studio execs aren't going to be able to come up with the ideas to do this. You're going to need somebody that understands what goes into the writing of a film. So I don't think all writers are going to go away. I think writer, B through Z are all going to go away, and writer A is going to be the one that continues to write, and then AI will assist in that. So I don't think just like practical effects, like you still have practical effects, you still have a small number of people that are experts in that field, but the large majority of those people are all either have gone to CGI or they've gone to another department or they've phased themselves out. That's what I think is going to happen with AI.
Wow.
Well, Knight, let's move on because we gotta.
Yes.
I don't know. I just me personally, I think there's plenty of people in this world who wouldn't want that to be the option. And as a great man once said, they might have the guns, but we have the numbers. So, but anyways, Brandon, throwing $5 out there for us. Do you think Scream 7 will explore Sam's missing years? Knight, I'm gonna throw this one to you first.
It's hard to say. I mean, I guess we're talking about before the events of 5, or if there is some type of time jump between 6 or 7. I don't know, but I don't know if they would do that, because of the fact that we've got we've seen in 5 and we've also seen in 6. We usually have a pretty large cast, and I think that they may not have time to do that. I mean, maybe they might have some type of nod to it, maybe like a flashback or something like that. But I wouldn't bet on it just, from gut reaction. I mean, it doesn't seem like they would have a lot of time to do that. Maybe they will though. I don't know what they'd want to do for Scream 7. I mean, obviously we've talked about a lot of things we want to see and we've had a lot of theories about what would be cool to see. But as far as them taking the time to explore those years before we met her in 5, or again, maybe if there's, some type of gap between 6 and 7, I don't know if they would really take the time to do that because, you presumably would still have the core 4 returning. Who knows what's going to happen with Nev? Who knows what's going to happen with Courtney? Who knows what's going to happen with Hayden? And then, of course, you're going to have a bunch of other people that you're going to have to introduce. So I don't know if they'd have enough time to do it, to be honest. Nor do we really need to see all of that. So that's just my quick take on it.
Yeah, I don't like. What are they going to explain that is crucial to the story? Like we know she ended up running off doing a bunch of drugs and
Right.
you know
She was rebellious and kind of
yeah,
did her
she
own
became
thing.
rebellious.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like what are we gonna have, like a bunch of drug scenes that, like, I mean, unless there's some, I don't see a point in doing the Sam's missing years. But I do think that there will be like some tie-ins. Maybe, I mean, it's not impossible to have like flashbacks to like Sam when, her and her mother, like when she found out, like that could be cool. Like especially if like maybe the father's involved, right? Not Sam, not Billy, but the father of Tara. Like maybe he's involved in this new attack, and we get a flashback scene of when he finds out and it destroys the family and stuff like that. So you get, I guess you get some of the Sam missing years, but like I don't think we'll get like, I don't think you'll have like a montage where it's like Sam in an alleyway hopped up on heroin or something, like I don't think you're gonna see her like, woo!
Let's pitch a movie.
Let's pitch a movie. Like I don't think you're gonna see anything like that. I think it'll just be, I think if you do get anything, it'll be like the family dynamic in which the family fell apart. That's probably my guess. But
yeah, talking about doing my theories for Scream 6 back just a couple of months ago, I remember talking about I'd love to see, Sam maybe when she was in high school during the events of like Scream 4. What was she doing? What was the family's reaction to all that? But how would that have served the plot of Scream 6 at all? You know what I mean? Like if there's an entire aside where it's just about her and Kirby having this relationship, it would just be completely pointless. I trust me, I'd love to see that as a fan, as someone who is super curious about how this is like integrated into the story now, but I don't see how that would have served the story for Scream 6. Like they did that all in one little conversation and a couple of sentences. You know what I mean? They just talked about how, Sam and Kirby, they knew each other back in the day somehow. Sure, that works. Fine, let's move on. I just feel the same way about this. There's nothing that needs to be explained. Everything has already been explained, I think, about Sam's past and how she feels about Billy Loomis being her secret father, how it broke their family up. I don't know. I just don't know how it could possibly serve the story in Scream 7. And I know a lot of us want to see like Christina Carpenter go into the fold somehow. She's a character now. I feel like the only reason that is a want at this point is just because this character has simply been name dropped. So I don't really see a point to throw in a character like Leslie Mocker or Christina Carpenter. I don't see how it could serve the story. But like I feel like we know everything we need to know about all of them already. So I don't know. I maybe, but I think Scream 7 will continue the story instead of go back on it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. And they've kind of shown that that's the path, that they've kind of taken. They're kind of just trying to push forward instead of, I mean, obviously you have people that return like Kirby and stuff like that. But as far as the story, they're trying to kind of, keep moving forward. So I think that's what they're going to do for 7 as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. Brandon, we all appreciate the $5 though. Thank you so much, sir.
Yes,
thank you. Lighting Ghost is also throwing 5 in there. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Saying, how do y'all feel about Catherine Newton and Fez from Euphoria joining Radio Silence's new project with Melissa Barrera?
I think it's cool. I said, I think anytime you have any talented people joining a project that we're curious about and hoping for the best, it's good news. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, I wish we knew a little more about the project to kind of have an idea
Right.
of what's going on. But um, yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. I I hopefully it's a good film. I'm rooting for Melissa Barrera, and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm excited for it. Catherine Newton is excellent in just about everything I've ever seen her in, so I'm excited to see what she brings to the table here. I'm curious as to what they're going. So like we learned recently that it's a Dracula's Daughter reboot. So I'm curious as to how they're going
Hmm.
to handle that. For those unfamiliar, the film is kind of it's a big deal for early classic monsters and all that. It portrays two characters who are like kind of like hinted at to be lesbians, which I think is really interesting. I wonder if they touch on that here, maybe make it a little more prominent instead of back in the day when you had to kind of hush hush on that, which sucks, I think. So I wonder
Right.
if they touch on that
Hmm.
here, if they expand upon it, whatever. I'm very excited to see how what everybody's role is in it. I'm guessing Melissa Barrera is going to be Dracula's daughter herself, which would be killer casting in my opinion. After seeing her just eviscerate Ghostface killers for 2 movies, I'm excited to see her
Yes.
biting into some necks of some people. So I'm hoping that's
Yeah.
that's what we get from this movie. It'll be cool. Whatever Catherine Newton's role is, and this person from Euphoria, a show I've unfortunately never watched. I hope it's good. I hope they kill it. And I hope it's fun.
Hmm.
I hope it's a bloody good time in this vampire resurgence we're getting right now, which is really cool. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping
I
for
was
the
just
best
thinking
when it
that too,
goes.
man. It's definitely a resurgence. Yeah.
Dude, like Renfield, Last Voyage of the Demeter coming out.
Hmm.
We got a lot of good
Yeah.
vampire stuff on the way. So
Well, and and me, I'm all for it because I like vampire films and stuff like that. But just thinking of Melissa Barrera, if she is, in that role, dude, I mean, she definitely fits that mold. She just has a very, she has like a I don't know if I want to word it this way, but like a dark stare to her. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And she definitely has this intensity that she can
got the
draw. I mean,
aesthetic
obviously we
look.
saw that. Yes, yes. I think she's absolutely perfect for that physically, and what she can do with her physicality. But if it's a role where she can really sink her teeth into, I think that'd be just really, really awesome. I'm really, I'm
I'm
really
sorry.
hoping the best for her.
Me too, man. I'm sorry. Yes, no, I
That was a good reaction. You would
no,
have
I
spit out your drink if you had just taken a drink.
damn it, I should have. It would have been so worth it. Just ruin the camera. Who cares? Who gives a shit? No, dude, I totally agree, man. I hope she kicks ass. I hope it's great. I wish Radio Silence nothing but luck on their next project, man. I hope it's good. Lighting
Right.
Ghost, thank you so much for the $5. We appreciate the heck
Yes.
out of you. Now, Fate, I want
Thank
to throw
you.
it to you real quick. Is there anything you got else going on tonight before we wrap up here?
No, nothing crazy. Same old stuff. I gotta get a video up at Fate Decided soon. It's been a couple days. I've just been swamped. But yeah, nothing major. What about you, Night?
Gonna be doing Slash Movie Club at 8 o'clock, so about an hour and a half or so from now. And yeah, just chilling, just chilling. Got a couple things working on. The usual, the life of a YouTuber. You always got stuff that you have to do. You never have enough time, and that's just how it goes.
You said it, man. Holy shit. What movie are you guys talking about
Yeah.
tonight?
It's this movie called The Children, which I had never heard of. It's a British horror film, and yeah, I'm glad we came upon it because a lot of it is blind watches. I'm glad we came upon it. It's a lot of dude. It kind of goes to your point from earlier, not to go on a rant, but about original filming and a lot of movies that are underrated and treasures to be found and so forth. There's so many movies like that in any genre, but specifically with horror. And for me, someone who's been a horror fan since I was a little kid, I mean, I was watching horror movies when I was 6 years old, so it's decades worth. And it still amazes me that there's so many movies out there that I've never heard of. And so many of them are actually like they're good or enjoyable and sometimes become favorites. So, here's hoping that that will continue even in this age of AI.
Yes. Oh, I agree, man. Hopefully we can keep getting more. That would be great. There's a lot of gems out
Yeah,
there, and hopefully we can find more in the future. So,
yeah.
yeah, I gotta. So I'm streaming tonight at 7 o'clock. Come say hello. I keep wanting to look over here, but the camera's here now. Everything's all moved around. Uh, Speaking of that, my setup's completely all fucked up now because I'm gaming as well on Golgotha, doing a gaming channel. We're playing Resident Evil 4 now. It's been a blast. We'll have some videos up on that page soon. So I am nonstop working. It's insane, but it's fun, man. It's fun
Yeah.
work. It's a lot of fun work. So
Yeah.
so stop on by all these channels tonight at some point as we stream, make videos, and do a whole bunch of crazy shit. Thank you so much for watching the Lethal Collective tonight, and as always, the collective has spoken. Peace out.
Peace.